Okay, so I want to thank Brian MacKenzie, the founder and the CEO of INFORCE, for coming and doing this today. Brian, it's great to have you. And let's just jump right into this thing. Set the stage for me. There's this idea that the IT industry in general has an HR problem. Talk to me about that at scale, and then bring it down to the P&C industry, the P&C industry as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, within the entire IT industry, I think people are there. Well, first, there aren't enough people for the demand that we currently see, and companies are hiring people just to get bodies in the door, and I think that's really the wrong way to do it. Okay. And we also see that the traditional method of hiring of, hey, someone sends you a resume and they have amazing skills. They've been at, this list of great companies. They have incredible degrees, and you bring them in and, just based on experience, they demand a high price, and they just don't really deliver what you want. And a lot of times they're set in their own ways. And we've gone about things a little bit differently, where we're really focused on, while skills and experience are important, yes.
Right.
We're looking for people that will fit the mold of the type of people we're looking to hire. The driven people, willing to learn and put in the time, and, aren't looking for, hey, this is my starter job, and I know I'm not going to do this for long. They're already quitting in their head before they get the first job. So we're always looking for people that, hey, want to, stay with us for the long term. And with that, we have an incredibly low turnover rate.
Can I ask you this? Why is there such a lack of people in this space to be able to do this job? Is there an educational problem? Is there a funnel problem? Why are there so few people that are doing this? When it seems, I remember when I was in high school, one of the career counselors literally came into our room, and I was in high school a while ago, let's just say that, it wasn't recently, literally said to us, you should become a computer programmer. And that was in the 1980s. Why is there still so few people doing this?
Well, there are multiple reasons, but I feel like that just funneling people in, in your example, that happens all the time today. A lot of people just aren't wired to sit at a computer all day and program, or their head just doesn't think of, arrays and, how of all these things. It's because you really can't see anything. So your head, you need to have, the aptitude to be able to figure out kind of puzzles in your head. That's really what you're doing. And everyone's not wired for that. If someone said, hey, you need to be a doctor, to me, it would be horrible. Or you need to be an attorney. That would be even worse for me.
Even worse. I could never do either one of those things.
Day and then, come up with, the crazy language and all of that. It's just not what I want to do. And it's really hard to box people into something that, is perceived as being a great opportunity because someone wants to be a policeman. It's unlikely that if they've been a policeman for years, that they could change roles and be a programmer. You're used to running around town, having all kinds of things happening and seeing all these, every day is totally different, to walking into an office and doing the same thing every single day, staring at a screen. It's just not going to work. And I think boxing people in doesn't work. I was a programmer in the very early days. I wasn't good at it. I figured out pretty quickly. My head was not wired to program. I could do it, but I was never going to be very good at it.
Yeah, I don't talk about this a lot either, but I did when I was in high school, I did a summer program at Cornell University, which was kind of cool. And because people had been telling me for years that learning how to program computers was going to be the future, I took a course in computer programming over the summer, and I think I was probably worse at this than you were. It's hard to do for me, at least.
Yeah, and that was probably back when you were using the punch cards and all of that technology. And
yeah, I actually, you won't believe this, but I actually still remember the assignment. I won't go through it now, but I was just I'm never going to be able to do this. Anyway, it was hard for me. Talk to me about, let's back up a little bit and talk to me about the genesis of INFORCE, right? Where did it start? Why did it start? Why are we doing this?
Well, it really started about 19 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I was hired into a company, Bristol West Insurance, and they had licensed software, OneShield policy administration software, and it was their first client for OneShield, and they were building an internal team at Bristol West to get this installed. And I was brought in as a project manager for that.
Okay.
And that was really the start of it, where, I got a taste of working in this, packaged software coming from really the custom world of software. Yeah. And I worked there for 4 years. And during that time, Bristol West was purchased by Farmers, and Bristol West was a smaller company, 1,200 employees or so, and Farmers is, I don't even know how many. And it just wasn't something that wasn't good for me. I just didn't want to be a number. And so I actually reached out to OneShield to see if they were hiring project managers. And that's really how it started. And I started speaking with their CEO, Glenn Anschutz, and we struck up a deal for me to start INFORCE and to really become an SI for OneShield. And for a long time,
what's an SI for
OneShield work.
What's an SI for people that maybe don't know?
A system integrator.
Got it.
So
okay.
Yeah, we were in the beginning. We were totally focused on the OneShield product, and had a lot of experience. So today we've been in business 15 years. And as INFORCE, and we've spread out. We're doing a lot of Uncork work. We're still doing a tremendous amount of OneShield work.
Okay.
And we're looking at partnering with other platforms and continuing to expand. We've gone from the 15 years from me and one other person to we're just under 200 people today.
That's a big company. Can I ask you this though? Did you always think at some point you were going to become an entrepreneur? And I'm pretty sure like 15 years ago when you started this, or even 19 years ago when you started working, you weren't thinking like this idea of entrepreneurship wasn't as big a deal, I think, as it is today. Or at least people weren't moaning and talking about it as much as they are today. But like when you started this company, did you think about now I'm on my own and everything's going to be different? Do you know what I mean?
Maybe to some extent.
Yeah.
But probably not, I guess you always dream like, wow, I want to be, the next Google or something like that. And it's like, lightning striking. It's, so uncommon.
It's super rare.
To be in business 15 years is a pretty good accomplishment, and to be profitable for 15 years, all of them is a pretty big accomplishment. And the business and what we've been doing has just morphed over the years. It's initially my dream was, hey, we're going to really be focused on all onshore US-based resources. And that's what we did for a long time. It's interesting. I mean, I guess it's a great thing to think about, but people don't want to buy that. So you're trying to sell something that people don't really have the appetite to pay for, just because economics. People are a lot more expensive here than they are in other countries.
And can I ask you this talent lag, right? Or this talent gap that we were talking about before, right? Where there just aren't enough people. Is that a localized US problem or is that a global problem?
It's a global problem. So
it's everywhere.
Everyone we talk to, it could be, on the insurance side, the carriers or MGAs, and then other system integrators, or even the people building the software. Everyone is in that same predicament. You're chasing people, just a round robin going through the door. So you hire someone, they work out great, but hey, they're just getting there. They're trying to climb the ladder to be whatever role within a a software company. Maybe they're a mid-level developer, but they want to be an architect and they want to fast track it. So they jump ship. And it's really hard to run a business that way. And
yeah, it's almost impossible, right? Like this, we mentioned a little bit before, but like turnover. I want to get sort of to the end of this when we're done talking to figure out why InForce has very little turnover, because I think it's amazing, right? Because even every company that I worked at, when I was at Goldman, when I was at Morgan, when I was at Citigroup, there was massive turnover every year. And it was obvious who was going to leave, and it was obvious who was going to leave other companies. So we'll get to that too. But you said it was originally 100% US based.
yeah.
And where is your company based? Because I think this is actually kind of interesting.
Well, yeah. So we're a US based company, 100%. I'm the sole owner of it. And most of our resources are in Serbia. And there's
How did that happen?
A unique story to that. A lot of people, at least in the US, you don't really talk about Serbia. It's not in the news. The big countries are in the news. And so back 19 years ago when I was at Bristol West, we were looking for developers. And one of the people we hired, Peter Vostinic, he was from Serbia. And at that time, he says, yeah, I'm from Serbia. I knew the accent and I'm like, what's that? And
where is that?
That was kind of, starting there. And now Serbia is a major piece of my life. I mean,
was he based in the United States at the time?
He was
hired in the US.
Yeah. He lived here in Cleveland. And
oh my gosh.
He had lived here for 20 plus years at the time.
Oh, wow.
And,
okay.
Really strong technical background and a true leader. And he was brought on to work on that initial implementation of the OneShield project.
And can I ask you this? Was he educated in Serbia? So he got this really strong technical background in Serbia, or was he educated in Ohio?
The education in Serbia, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And, through the 4 years while we've worked together at the Bristol West and then Farmers, we just had a great working relationship and kind of really could see eye to eye. And InForce was in business for about a year. And then I convinced him to come over and start working for InForce. And initially he was just another person, working on projects. And
right.
He has a pretty broad skill set. So he would do whatever, broad skill set and the attitude to just do whatever it takes. And it doesn't matter. And he's really good like that. And so we operated like that for years.
Okay.
And 6 or 7 years ago, he called me one morning, and Peter's an only child. His parents live in Serbia. And he said his father just suddenly passed away.
Oh,
and
no.
he needed to go home to Serbia to take care of his mother. And, the countries are quite different. She's older. She couldn't come to the U.S. She couldn't speak English. She couldn't drive, wouldn't have medical care, all of the obvious things. So the easiest thing was, hey, Peter, you get on the plane and go to Serbia. And, he said, I'll bring my laptop and then I'm not going to skip a beat. And I'll continue to work on my projects as I've always had in the U.S. time zone.
Right.
And that was really the start of InForce Serbia and what we have today. And it was,
I have to ask you this though, Brian, if you don't mind, right? We don't, at least I do, even today, I don't even know if I could find Serbia on a map, right? And I think that would be probably true for most people in the United States. When he said that to you, of course, you've been working together, you trusted each other and stuff like that, right? But were you like, is this going to be okay? And then if he's running stuff, like, how's he going to hire other people to work with him? Was there any concern at all for you? Or?
Initially, he was just going to work on his projects and not hire anyone. So that was really the next frontier. And,
so what happened?
So he worked for maybe a year and a half, just, doing his daily thing. as
Yeah.
a lead on a project. And he kept pushing that we have a lot of talent in Serbia. They're looking for good opportunities. They're dedicated.
Right.
The educational system is phenomenal. And I'm hearing this, and while I trust what he's saying, Serbia is just a long way away. I've never been there. I
Right.
don't speak Serbian. I can't read Cyrillic. There's just, it just seemed like one of those, an insurmountable challenge.
Yeah.
And after about a year of that, he finally convinced me, and we brought 4 people on, or 5 people.
Did you go
on.
there? Did you go?
Not initially, no. But
Got it. Okay.
we hired 5 people on. 4 of them are still with us today.
That's amazing.
And, we originally were working out of his apartment. So he set up some like card tables, and people were training and, using his kitchen and his bathroom and, his bed. You would have Teams calls with him, and you'd see his bed is right in the back. I mean, it was pretty crazy. And, but it worked. And we realized quickly that these people were, very educated, extremely dedicated, and would do whatever it takes to make something happen. And
that's amazing.
We quickly started ramping up hiring over in Serbia. We went through, I believe it was 3 different office spaces in about 18 months because we kept outgrowing them. And, it was it was not planned. There was, no great plan to put together and say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. And these are the steps. We were truly winging it. And the culture and the people that we were bringing on were the ones that were making it happen. And that's really, it's the people today, which we're really seeing the difference in InForce at clients compared to our competitors.
So 2 things come to mind that I have to ask about. Do your clients know that your tech team per se is in Serbia? And I'll tell you why I'm asking. One, because there's kind of the world knows, like, there's all this, and I don't want to use the word outsourcing, but the world knows that, like, there's tech talent in India. The world knows there's tech talent in China, right? The world believes, maybe starting to understand, that there's tech talent in Vietnam, but they may not know it's in Serbia, right? So do you tell your clients about that? And then the second thing is, are you competing with other people that have figured out what you've figured out, and that now there's starting to be a more competitive market, right? In a place where we know globally that there's a lack of talent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All of our clients know that our people are from Serbia. It's hard to hide their names. When you see
Yes.
when you see a team and everyone in the last name ends in IC, that's a running joke internally. But
Oh, that's so good.
While they in the beginning might not know where Serbia is, I'm sure that they look at a map and they figure it out pretty quickly.
Right.
But globally, you hear a lot of bad stuff in the news that this is terrible, that's terrible. You got to stay away from this country. And it doesn't, maybe that's the governments and the politicians, but it's not the people that you're with on the street. And they're incredible people. I mean, the work they do and the dedication, and all of our clients will say the same thing. They ask for them by name. So we might not be at a client for 5 years straight. We'll be somewhere for a year, finish some work, then leave for 6 months and come back, and they'll ask for those same people. And with a low turnover, those same people, while they'll still be with the company, maybe they're not available right now, but they're all working with us. And a lot of times, hey, we can work something out. So we're bringing back the same team with the institutional knowledge of the client to help them out. And
that's kind of amazing.
That really helps. If for a for a system integrator or, an insurance carrier or whoever it is, while employee turnover hurts, it's almost a double-edged sword for us because we would lose a person and then our client is also losing someone.
Yeah, fair enough.
How many people or how much turnover will a client put up with before they decide we need to go a different direction? If it were their internal people, they would probably do an investigation of why are so many people leaving this department, or why is there so much change? And with us, we haven't seen that. And in Serbia, in Belgrade, all the big software companies are there.
So this gets back to this other question: is are you seeing now that you've been there for a while, that you're now competing for resources with other companies?
We would be if we were in Belgrade, but we're not there. We figured out the place to really be is in the smaller cities.
I love it.
And you don't have the job hopping there.
Yep.
The people are a little bit different. They're, less prone to, sort of the, switch one job because you're going to get a few bucks more there. And, they want to live where their family is, where they grew up, where they know things. Yeah. And in those smaller towns, there aren't a lot of, we'll call it a modern job, programming and IT and all of those. Those don't really exist to the extent they do in the bigger towns. And this gives people an opportunity for something very stable in an industry that's growing like crazy, actually IT and insurance. And it's just very stable. And we've, found that over the years, people are even buying rental properties. So, they're a developer or they're QA and they're actually investing in investment properties, which is a pretty cool thing. Or, it was a couple years ago, and I don't want this to sound bad.
No.
But I go to Peter, I go, why are there so many women pregnant here all the time? Like, what's going on? And, it is what it is. I can't control it, and it's just what it is. And he said it's pretty easy. They're feeling very confident and safe in what they're doing, and they want to start a family. And, without INFORCE, they wouldn't be doing that. And that's
amazing.
We've provided, that is a really cool feeling that starting the company, I never dreamed of. It was all about, hey, I need to make as much money as fast as possible. Right. It's all these other things now that are really, I guess, driving me more than the money component.
There's kind of a cool thing, and again, I think you will agree with this, but tell me if I'm wrong. There's kind of this cool thing of when you start a company, you're right, obviously you want to make some money, but at some point you see the impact you have on individual families. And it's not just the guy or the gal that works for INFORCE or works for your company. It's their extended family. It's that new addition they have to the family. And you're right, the level of confidence they have in the stability in their lives is something that has to make you super happy. But it has to come down to company culture as well. There's a reason why people don't leave, and it's not just because they're in a small town, right? Because they could all move to Belgrade if they really wanted to. And I'm curious, what you think it is about the INFORCE culture that makes people stay, or maybe it's the hiring process. Maybe you can walk me through that.
Yeah, I think it starts with the hiring process, and going back to really where we started was, we're not looking at a resume for the big names. Oh, you were at Goldman Sachs, and
don't care.
That's great. That's like a medal on your resume.
Sure. Sure.
The gold, you're like the gold standard.
Let me interrupt you for a second. I worked at Goldman Sachs. I don't talk about it a lot, but I know that when people look at my thing, they have a perspective on who I am right? But I'm like you. I don't care about it. Do you know what I mean? I really don't. And if you look at my LinkedIn profile, it doesn't say like X Morgan Stanley and X Goldman Sachs, because that's not how I want to be defined. And I agree with you. I was talking to a woman, and I'm sorry to interrupt you on this one, but this is really important for me. I was in Tokyo in July, and there was a woman who was talking about how she hired for her company, and I want to hear how you do this for yours. And she was like, I don't want to see their name. I don't want to see who they worked for. I don't want to know how old they are. I just want to know what they've done. Just like, what have you done? And I want everything else stripped away, because if they've done these things and I need those things done, then I know I can work with them. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. It's a pretty exhaustive hiring process. So
Tell me.
We're constantly receiving resumes, and they're all, tracked in a database. So a couple of years ago, we opened up a training academy. So,
Oh, nice.
And on a regular scheduled basis, we'll bring in a new class. And we just started a group of 22 last Monday in the new program.
Okay.
But we collect the resumes, and before a new class starts, as a couple months before that class is set to start, they'll start combing through the resumes and identifying people. For this group, I believe it was 60 people. They said, okay, these are, the best of the 120 resumes we got.
Oh my gosh.
And they break them up, and they'll go into interviews. So it'll be one candidate interviewing with multiple of our team leads and the instructors from the academy. And they go through this process, and they'll select sort of the finalists. And once they're selected, they go through an English exam. So all of our people can, read and speak and communicate incredibly well in English. That's a prerequisite. So we could find someone who's, just a gold star employee, but if they can't communicate, it's a deal breaker for us. So, so the English exam is a big component of the hiring process. When they get through that, then they'll take a technical exams, and really some of those psychological puzzles to really figure out how they think. And when they get through that, and we're really whittling them down to the best of the best, they'll go to a psychologist, and we have a psychologist, speak with them and try to figure them out. And we're looking for the people that are going to be with us for a while, that are looking for a career opportunity and looking to grow. And so I don't know if a lot of people in the US, if it were an entry-level developer or QA, would put up with all that. It's a lot. When other people are just going to flat out hire you because they need people. But we put a lot of time in beforehand.
What is the psychology test trying to find?
It's really just to figure out how they're wired. Are they looking to job hop? Do they really want to be a developer? Or is it just, hey, it's one of those cool opportunities that everyone's telling me it should be great and I could make some good money? But hey, in reality, they'd rather be a forest ranger. They would rather be outside and doing stuff in the wilderness, or
which is
something
fair, right?
like that. Yeah. That they don't want to sit at a computer. So that's really important.
Got it. So once you hire these people, what's the right way to say this? Like, everyone talks about lifelong learning, right? One of the things that I love about my job is I'm learning something new every day. Right. And the other thing that I love doing is I like helping people get better. So how do you develop these people to keep them? Because that's one of the ways you keep them interested, right? That's got to be one of the big parts of company culture, is saying, now that you're here, we're not just going to forget. Now we're going to make you even better than you were when you arrived. How does that work?
Yeah. So initially in our current academy model, it lasts about 6 months. And
Okay.
it depends on the group, but it could be 6 to 8 weeks where we call it the incubator, where everyone's just trying to figure each other out. Are you a good fit for InForce? Or, just mutually, is this something we want to do? And they go through that, and that's even before they get into any of the technical or any of the, real kind of what InForce does as a business. So we're training them, on insurance. So all of our people, they get trained on the same curriculum that insurance agents in the state of Ohio get trained on.
Interesting.
And we make them pass a very similar exam. Now they're in Serbia and they can't get licensed. But we want everyone to understand and speak the insurance language, the same language that our clients are speaking. We think it's absolutely critical that you need to be talking the same language. So that's one of them. Another one is just, hey, how do you communicate how do business people communicate? It's a lot different than you do if you're sitting at a cafe with your friends and, all of these, I guess, subtle things that in the US that you would learn just, hey, you grew up and things just happen differently, or you've been through 5 different jobs in the US. Right. You know how to send an email. You've done Teams meetings. And a lot of times you're getting people that, hey, they haven't had the opportunity yet. They're completely wired to do it, and they end up being exceptional. But guess what? They just didn't have the opportunity. And we have a lot of individuals that are like that, where, they came in and are just total rock stars in what they do. And, fortunate for us that they're working for InForce and they're dedicated and they move up within the company quickly.
I wish that somebody had taught me just like how to be a professional person. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like all the stuff that I learned through osmosis by just like looking around and just going, what is that lady doing? How should I do that? What is that guy doing? Do you know what I mean? There was never anybody structurally that taught me anything.
Do it unless you go to the biggest companies where they'll have, a hiring class. They bring you in and they tell you this is how you need to communicate.
Nobody told me anything.
And I learned by osmosis, and it took a lot of learning. I mean, to get where I am, it wasn't a fast process.
But it's weird though, like you reach a certain point, like, because now I hear myself actually teaching people things and I'm like, where did I even know that from? Right? Because definitely nobody taught me anything, whether it was Morgan Stanley or Gordon, nobody taught me anything. Anyway, so at the end of the day, like it feels like a watershed event for Peter to go back to Serbia, right? And then those first 4 hires feels like maybe we should do this, maybe we shouldn't do it. But now it just feels like this is just where the company is, right? But at the end of the day, it has to lead to something. Right at the end of the day, what is all this giving back to your clients?
Well, I hope that they can see the stability and the quality of the people that we're bringing to the table, and the dedication that we have a client who we've been working with for 13 years, and Peter has been involved with that client for 13 years, pretty much. I mean, today he's not like a billable resource on the client, but he is a go-to. He knows everything that's going on there. And, we try to always do the right thing. So, in any of this technology work, you can't be successful at whatever you do 100% of the time.
For sure.
You underestimate a piece of work, or you think, oh, this is how I need to do it. And you dig in and you realize, oh, this is not the way we should have done it. There's a lot of times where we'll just, eat a bunch of hours just because it was something, hey, INFORCE, thought one thing and it turned out to be the other. Or, hey, there's a tight deadline. We'll throw more resources at it. We have some people on the bench. And we'll just throw it to get the work done. That's what matters. It's not the quick buck. We want to be around, and we want to be the go-to, and be proud of the work that we're doing. We just don't want to do a bunch of work, leave, and never to be called back. We've really grown in these 15 years just by word of mouth, and so we've gone from 2 to 200 employees for the most part by word of mouth. We've just been putting together a marketing program.
Yeah. One of the things that I talk to my team about all the time, and I think you would agree with this as well, is that you don't have to make every last buck, right? And I think the point you're trying to make here at the end is that sometimes you eat the billable hours, because at the end of the day, if you do that, your clients are going to come back and give you more business anyway. So at the end of the day, it's just going to be additive as opposed to subtractive. It's the best way to treat a client. And I look at my business this way, and I'm sure you too as well. In a way, we're an experience company. We want people to have a great experience when they're working with us, right? And that's really important to me. It sounds like it's really important to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to be called back. We love getting the positive feedback. It's great, when a CIO will, send a group email with the client's internal team and our team listed in there. Yeah. Hey, massive success. We actually hit the schedule and reasonably close to the budget and all of these things. It's a great feeling. And these are the things that when you first start out in a business, it's all about the money. And, I got to grow this thing as fast as possible. But once you start to stabilize, you learn that there is a lot more to life than just some money. That, being successful at what you're doing and being happy with what you're doing is, to me, it's way more important.
I'm going to end on that. Brian MacKenzie, the founder and CEO of INFORCE. This was awesome. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. We have to have you back. You must come back.
Thank you, Michael. It's been an experience.